110%. And he brought 110% to everyday life. Or maybe more? He went all over the city by bus, by walking miles and miles to experience life, cultural events, concerts, film festivals, theater, museum, lectures, happenings. He wanted to live fully while also trying to improve himself, self-culture. In the summer of 2022, Howard went to Kane Park, a theater he so enjoyed. That summer evening, he collapsed. A bystander called 911. He was found to be septic, infection overpowering him. 3 days of intensive care at university hospitals revived him, and then there were 6 more days of care on a regular unit, Lakeside 20. I surmise that he didn't feel well that day that he went to Kane Park, but he so pushed himself. He didn't want to miss anything. Howard strived to be healthy. He was certain that he would live to be at least 85. Howard's beliefs in vegetarianism were strong. He said, "I'm a vegan wannabe." He could not, however, resist pizza. Was his belief in the power of positive thinking even stronger than vegetarianism? I think so. While in the ICU, he found that he was unable to walk. He despaired about this, but briefly, he channeled all his energy into recovery. Well, not quite all. Howard, ever thrifty, worried desperately about his hospital bill. He could not afford insurance, so to save money, he did not eat the hospital meals. That's heartrending. He just didn't know that meals were not priced into the bill. Yet, ever positive, Howard figured he could lose weight. 30 pounds melted away. When we visited him, he proudly showed us his progress, taking us and his walker for a walk through the halls. His discharge plan recommended 2 weeks of rehab. No way. He would prove to the team that he could be independent. And no way was he going to miss the LGBTQ Center's art show, in which he had 2 entries. What a remarkable and timely recovery he made. Coincidentally, Howard was a patient on Lakeside 20, and I had worked there in orthopedics for 5 years in the early 80s. I had a lot of memories from that unit. Howard had not had medical attention for decades. He was, a self-healer. 3 medical conditions were diagnosed during that first admission, and it took a long time for Howard to process that. Follow-up appointments were made by the hospital, which really was a gift, for it channeled him to get some further medical care. And he came into the system, and he came to appreciate it. We provided rides, attended his appointments at his request, and navigated the system with him. Well, he needed a primary care doctor. Kathy Little suggested he go to the Pride Clinic at the LGBTQ Center, and Howard agreed. What a great match. His doctors there were gems, earning Howard's trust, gratitude, and respect. At each appointment check-in, when the clerk was reviewing his information and asked his date of birth, he would always say, "It's the same as the last time I was here." Then he would laugh out loudly, and all the clerks heard him. Howard was seen by a dermatologist to remove a long-standing cancer on his cheek. He admitted readily to her that he was scared. It took a while to persuade him that surgical care of cancer was much kinder than cancer left to its own course. That doctor won his trust too. Howard had another skin condition that was treated with liquid nitrogen, so cold that it burned the tissue. Now, this dermatologist was a beautiful young doctor. She went with Howard's preference for self-care, but she also presented information that convinced Howard to accept the care that she could offer. He had numerous cold liquid treatments over the years, mostly to his legs. Oh, did those treatments burn? Howard let it all out. Now, here is a phrase Howard thought of as we drove to another treatment with this lovely dermatologist. Because of the pain associated with the treatment, he associated the pain with the doctor. And Howard said, "She is my dominatrix." I am sure I can't describe how funny and clever Howard thought this was. He repeated this infinitely during that ride, and the joke lasted for months. Post-pandemic, when it became safe for providers to not wear masks, and his dermatologist came into the room without a mask, Howard was taken aback, as he had never seen her full face. He paused and looked at her. He sweetly and softly said how beautiful her loveliness was. He saw her whole self and the personality that she had come to know. Lab tests suggested Howard had prostate cancer. With reflection, he declined, recommended care for a good while. He wanted to do it my way, choosing healthy habits, thinking positively, taking some supplements. But it was a urologist who quite frankly and vehemently laid it on the line and told him that he would die without care. This prompted Howard to proceed. It was at this time that he started asking some others about their bouts with prostate cancer. These interactions helped him so much. Howard always inquired what care was involved, what outcomes would be. He sought out a lot of health information to make informed and acceptable decisions. Also, he read every single word of every single document carefully, and he wouldn't sign anything unless he read it. This past August, Howard was admitted to Fairview Hospital, his 3 major health issues catching up with him. He was tired and in pain. Cancer had spread rapidly, widely. Hospice was offered, and once again, it took him some time to process all of this. But he agreed, and he was transferred to Hospice of the Western Reserve, where he was treated with comfort measures for his increasing pain. He received remarkable care and was, I think, at peace. In his remaining days, while he could, he happily enjoyed the vegan meals that were prepared for him. In the first week of September, Howard drifted into a coma lasting a few days. Many came to visit, just to sit and just to be with him, an act he would have given thanks loudly for if he were able to. He so loved having visitors. To be Howard's navigator and friend was a gift to me. Always, always, always he thanked me. To witness over this past 3.5 years such excellent and at times extraordinary medical and personal care from friends and family and the whole community, it's given me comfort. When Howard was in hospice, I measured his hair. How long had it grown? Jillian and Kathy, are you ready for the answer? There were many different lengths, but the longest was 1¼ inches. Did you know that he wanted to walk the Appalachian Trail when he was 85? You may say he's a dreamer. Goodbye, friend, with love and affection.
From Reverence for Life, by one of Howard's favorite thinkers, Albert Schweitzer. Something deep and sanctifying takes place when people who belong to each other share the thought that every day, each coming hour, may separate them. In this anxiety, we always find that the initial anxiety gives way to deeper and very important questions. Have we given each other everything we could? Have we been everything we might have been to one another? Is there anything we would like to undo, something we wished had never happened or that we had not said? We sense that perhaps we can better bear the parting if we have treated each other with such love. What a different world this would be if we dared to look deeply at each other, if we kept in mind the prospect of being torn unexpectedly from each other. We each would become more sacred to one another because of death. So much of what we value, so much of what captivates us and engages us, so much of what we fight over or bicker about is only of temporary worth. In an instant, in the very next hour, it may become utterly valueless. Thinking about death in this way produces a true love for life. When we are familiar with death, we accept each week, each day, as the gift that it is. Only if we are able to accept life bit by bit as something we owe of ourselves instead of something owed to us does it become precious. Only familiarity with the thought of death creates true inward freedom from material things. The ambition, greed, love of power, lack of security that we keep in our hearts that shackles us to this life in chains of bondage cannot, in the long run, deceive the person who looks death in the face. Here ends the reading. Jillian.
Good afternoon. My name is Jillian Cook. When I would visit Howard at the hospital and then Ames, he would talk about wanting the best memorial that West Shore ever had. And I'm looking out, and I'm sure there's people online. He certainly got his wish. Wow. Howard would refer to me along with his good friends Drina, who you had heard from earlier, as his angels, and Kathy as his angels. When I think of Howard, the first word that comes to mind is gratitude. I met Howard Moore years before I became a member at West Shore. My late husband Mark told me about an afternoon yoga class at West Shore. I had never been to a yoga class, but I wanted to learn more about yoga. About 15 minutes into the session, the door opened. A man walked in carrying a bag and a yoga mat. When I first saw Howard, I noticed his hat right away, which had many buttons displaying political, social justice, and expressions of love attached. That is when I turned to Mark, and he said, "Oh, that's Howard." Mark was Howard's friend years before I met Howard. I met Howard during an event at West Shore. We both became members at the same time. Howard would come to our house once a month for lunch and a movie. Howard loved animals. He would love to come to our house to spend time with Mark and me and our loving dog, Sully. As you can see, he would get down on the floor and pet Sully. He was so sad when Sully died in 2023. These lunches are where I learned so many things about my dear friend and what an amazing life he led. When my husband Mark was dying at the Western Reserve Ames Hospital facility, Howard came to say goodbye to his friend, my husband. This is also the place that Howard spent his last days. He was just a few rooms down from where my husband spent his final days. I was so happy that Howard was able to spend his last days in a place that had given my husband and myself such loving care. We celebrated Howard's 80th birthday party at my house, where he was surrounded by his chosen family for a day of love and laughter. After, we celebrated 2 more birthdays at my house. I had already started talking to Howard about this year's party. I had a couple new ideas for the event. Each year, we all wore our hats in honor of Howard. As you can see, Drina, Kathy, and I are wearing our hats today to express our love for Howard. At Howard's party, he brought with me an article that was published on August 25th, 1962, 63 years ago, in the Charlotte Observer. He instructed Mark and me to please make sure that that article would be part of his memorial and sat out in the rotunda along with the rest of Howard's memorabilia. I have the honor of reading that article now. It was in the Charlotte Observer, August 25th, 1962. The name of the article was Howard, His Ideas, and a Dog Peddled Here. If contemporary America is a sedentary civilization, populated by people who exercise too little, eat too much, and spend their lives seeking security, then 19-year-old Howard Moore is not exactly a typical American. Howard astride a battered bicycle that might have been customized by Rube Goldberg, pedaling into Charlotte just before dusk, Thursday, 46 days and about 700 miles after leaving his native Cleveland on July 8th. Where is he going? Quote, "Well, I don't know. I just go wherever I feel capable of going," he explained, somewhat mystically, Friday at the 5th Street Fire Station where he had spent the night. Quote, "I have a very strong desire to see the country." Howard's desire was so strong that he quit school after the 10th grade, worked for 20 months to earn the money he needed, then told his parents goodbye and pedaled off to see the world. Quote, "It has been wonderful to get back to nature and enjoy the scenery, sunshine, fresh air, and exercise," the earnest urban bred youth said. Quote, "When you push that bicycle up to the top of a mountain, it's an awful hard way to get up there, but it is a gratifying experience to feel, I earned this view." Howard was getting back to nature. He's a dedicated vegetarian. Quote, "I would just as soon eat a human as an animal," Howard said. "I just do not have the heart to see animals killed." To prove his point, Howard pointed enthusiastically to cans of health foods, New Steak, Soy Burger, and Soyagen, plus the molasses and wheat germ that are staples in his camping diet. Quote, "Sometimes I mix Soyagen with molasses and wheat germ and then stir in some peanut butter. It's so delicious." Howard cited his stamina as evident that health foods are what the human body needs. Quote, "Some people say vegetarians are weaklings, but if they were, I would not have made it from Cleveland. About a week ago, south of Winston-Salem, the youngster befriended a stray dog and decided to take him along. He was worse than a stray. He had the mange and was the kind of dog nobody else wanted. Quote, "That is exactly why I wanted him." Howard put the dog, by this time, named Tony, into a cardboard box and wedged it between the back of his bicycle and a two-wheel trailer that the bike pulls. Howard's plans are unsettled. He will stay in Charlotte for a week and then either push on or return to Cleveland. He is hoping to find a used motorcycle, either as a gift or at a good price, and if he does, he will head to California. When will he settle down? Quote, "I figure my life savings will last me about 6 months," he said. "If I find a town I like, it would be okay to live there." Remember, Howard was 19 years old talking about his life savings. In the meantime, Howard and Tony will be on the road. This concludes the article. There are so many more stories to tell you about my wonderful friend Howard. I am sure that so many of you who are here today have lots of stories. Wonderful. I can't wait till after his service to hear some of the more stories about the amazing man that I was honored to have in my life for so many years. Thank you.
Let's sing together the song Imagine, John Lennon. Howard wanted us to sing this song. Let's stand up and sing this song together. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. Above us, only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no cotton trees. It's hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Hope someday you will join us, and the world will be as one. And no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Hope someday you will join us, and the world will live as one.
Hello. I'm Kathy Little, and Howard was my good friend. I met him in 2010 when my other good friend, Jerry Nazel, who some of you know, invited him to check out West Shore. Howard immediately became a beloved fixture at West Shore, as well as an integral member of our Queer and Allies Task Force. Like many of you, I fell in love with Howard's eccentric and loving personality and spontaneous laughter. I have a permanent image in my mind of Howard wearing his iconic political buttons hat, carrying a large shopping bag of all his treasures with a big grin on his face. Howard had a wealth of knowledge, not acquired from academic institutions, but from personal research and lived experience. In his 20s, must have been shortly after that bike ride, Howard saved enough money to backpack all over Europe for 9 months, staying in youth hostels. I can just imagine the conversations he had with folks he met along the way. During his recent hospital stay at Fairview, a couple of weeks before he died, a woman doctor wearing a hijab visited him. He asked her if she was Muslim, and she responded yes. He then said hello to her in Arabic, bringing a smile to her face. Howard had a variety of interesting jobs as a young adult. Because he loved to travel, he found jobs in areas of the country he wanted to visit. He was a bike messenger in San Francisco, a city to which he was drawn due to his bisexuality. Because he wanted to attend the World's Fair and couldn't afford a ticket, he took jobs at 2 different World's Fairs so he could immerse himself in the experience. Howard loved films, especially documentaries. He was a regular attendee of West Shore's monthly social action film series, always sitting in the front row, right there. He also regularly attended the Cleveland International Film Festival. One year, he saved enough money to buy an all-access film pass, and he said to me, "I feel like a rich man." But most years, he graciously accepted vouchers for films from regular volunteers like myself, Kim Hunyer, and others. Howard was a true Renaissance man. In addition to his wealth of knowledge about diverse issues, he was also an artist. I'm aware of at least 3 art shows in recent years where he displayed his art. Various collages at West Shore and the LGBT Center, and homemade crystals at Spaces Gallery. The executive director of the LGBT Center, Phyllis Harris, was so pleased with one of Howard's works that she purchased it for the center where it permanently is displayed. Phyllis allowed us to borrow this work to display in the rotunda for this service. There it is at the center at the art show. Like many of you, what I loved most about Howard was his joie de vivre. One of my favorite experiences with Howard was taking him to the Duct Tape Festival out in Avon. He told me, "Kathy, the bus doesn't go that far. Can you take me?" "Sure." And I had a ball with him, just watching him. He was obsessed with duct tape. As he told me many times, you can make or repair anything with duct tape. He was like a little kid, wanting to see and touch all the exhibits, play all the games, and make things for himself and his friends in the do-it-yourself duct tape tent. He made a wallet and a watch band and some other things. This was at the Duct Tape Festival. He insisted that riding the bucket bronco. I said, "Howard, I'm worried you'll get hurt." "Nah, there's a big pillow down there." And he actually lasted longer, I timed it, than some of the guys that went before him. Howard did not belong exclusively to West Shore. Howard was a regular visitor at the People's University, specifically the Lakewood and Rocky River libraries. In recent years, Howard also liked to participate in weekly programs at Future Directions Drop-In Center. He was a beloved member of the Rainbow Pioneers at the LGBT Center. After he lost his phone and I needed to get hold of him, I knew he'd be at the center every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. for various programs and lunches. When I would find him there, he always asked, "How'd you know I'd be here?" I'd respond, "You're always here at this time on this day." Howard's joie de vivre was infectious, and I hope this is what you remember about him.
I'm Carol!
Thank you, Drina, Jillian, and Kathy, for your heartfelt remembrances and hilarious videos. Whoa. We have some time for a couple other folks to share some stories with us as well. Something briefer to share, and I want to remind you of the reception after our service in Baker Hall, and that will also be a great opportunity for you to share some of your stories with other folks. So remember that opportunity as well. So whoever would like to come up, please.
And then Howard was a friend of mine. He lived pretty close to where we live, so we had the occasion of having his company as we drove him either home or to the library, as other people have mentioned. But I wanted to focus on two things about Howard, some of which have already been mentioned. He loved to learn, and that surprised me, really. He signed up for a class that I initiated called Taoism 101, and we were going through chapter by chapter in the Tao Te Ching to learn more about Taoism. And the symbol, of course, is over there with the yin-yang symbol. And unfortunately, it was cut short by COVID, but that was just how I saw Howard. He wanted to learn about all kinds of things, and he said to me, this is the reason he joined Unitarian Universalist Church, because there are so many interesting people here, and he can learn so much from us. The other part I wanted to mention is his focus on health. He was interested in learning Tai Chi, and I was teaching Tai Chi, and I have many times. He was my most devoted student. He was the one that came to every one of my 8 sessions again and again and again. I think it must have been about 5 years when he was a student. And finally, he liked to share his knowledge of health and what you ought to do to get healthier. So I wanted to show, he talked me into drinking apple cider vinegar. And it has to be with a mother in it, otherwise it's no good. So every morning now, I pour a little apple cider with vinegar in my fruit juice in honor of him, and I will always remember Howard. Thank you.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Kim. Howard called me Kimmy, or one of his angels, and that was the greatest honor I could ever have. Unbeknownst to most, Howard one time asked me if I would say a few words whenever his time came. So, Howard, here I am, with my headband on, because like Howard was known for his hats, my headbands are my thing. Howard did not care for me to wear hats. It covered up my hair. He wanted to see the orange. But he approved of the headbands and got very upset if I didn't have one on and would remind me. One time I forgot my headband and Howard was in great dismay. I know Howard from many, many places, from the film festival, the Border Light Festival, to Cleveland Public Theater, the libraries, the computer rooms. Howard and I were two of a kind. We did not drive a car, so we shared many, many bus rides. Howard was known to say to me, "Kim, you are everywhere." That was true, but I said, "Howard, you only know that because you too are everywhere." How I know Howard the best is, Howard, I'm very devoted and honored to be a part of Rainbow Pioneers at the LGBTQ+ Center of Greater Cleveland. And I teach a class there called Senior Stretch and Restore. When I was about to start the class, they told me that Howard would like to interview me. We spoke for 40 minutes. The staff at the center was giving me all kinds of "we're sorry" signs. It was the greatest 45 minutes I ever had. At the end, he said, "Kim, I've decided I like you. I will take your class," which he did every Monday. I start out my class with several of the pioneers that are here, wonderful group of people, and Howard, I'm sorry, other pioneers, was my star pupil. I treasure the memories we share. I'm honored that he felt that I was worthy that he would take my class. He was the most special, humane, eccentrically beautiful person I've ever known. I've lost many people on the road in my 71 years, and I consider them angels, but I have very few that are guardian angels. Howard is number 4. He's my 4th guardian angel, and he is on my shoulder, and I feel him. I look for him on the bus, at the library. It's just not the same, but I know his energy is with me and with all of you that he loved so very dearly, and he is up there helping with causes that he dearly believed in. So to Howard and to all of you, blessed be, namaste. Thank you.
April Stoltz. I go to West Shore, for those of you who don't go here. And I too, like many others, I live in Lakewood. Howard and I would attend a lot of different things together, and afterwards I'd say, "Hey, you want to ride?" He goes, "Oh, yeah, sure, okay." We talk in the car and gave him lots of rides. And one day, a number of years ago in late November, I got a call from him, and he goes, "April, do you like the Trans-Siberian Orchestra?" And, not really. I wasn't... It didn't ignite me. I said, "Well, I don't know. Yeah, what's up, Howard?" And he goes, "Well, he had put in for some kind of contest with a radio station and won this full package where a stretch limo would pick him up, take you downtown to see the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, sit in the front row, go behind the scenes, look at how they do everything, and the stretch limo would then take you to the Hard Rock Cafe where you have a meal, and then take you home." And I was hemming and hawing, and I am not proud of that. And then Howard said to me, "April, you always give. And now I can give back." Okay. His lesson for me was learning how to receive. Learning how to receive. I said, "Okay, I'm going." We had so much fun. That limo was so long, it took him 3 times to back up and go forward just to get around the corner in Birdtown, okay? It was like, it could hold 15 people, and we were going downtown. It was really bad and snowy traffic. We were on the highway, and I was talking to Howard and talking to the limo driver, and Howard would get up and he'd move, he'd get into each seat, because I'm checking every seat out. Because for 3 hours, we're millionaires. We had so much fun. I had the best evening. It was fabulous, but I will never, ever forget the deep spiritual lesson that he taught me, to be able to receive. And that was Brother Howard. Thank you.
Hi, my my name is Alyssa Roberts, and I am one of our program managers at the LGBT Community Center. But that is not the only role I've held. I've also been an intern. I've also overseen our senior program, SAGE, or Rainbow Pioneers, seen them through that fun transition. And Howard is one of the people that I've known the longest, was one of the first Sagers that came up to me on my first day as an intern. I was in the closet at the time. I was the biggest ally ever, as I feel like most of us start out. And Howard always said hello to me, always welcomed me, always asked really inquisitive questions about who I was and what I was doing there and why I wanted to be there. And there have been many, many folks from the program who have really impacted me, and I say this, a lot in the memorials that we have had for folks that we've lost in our Rainbow Pioneers program, but Howard really helped me figure out who I was and why I wanted to be there, and really shared with me like his journey as, someone who was bisexual and how freeing it was and how free of a person that he was. And it was really interesting to hear some of the stories of how long he's been sick because, I knew, back in 2022 when he fell right before the art show and how surprised we were to see him there and some of those things, but I did not know how sick he was for so long. And so it's really interesting to hear that because he showed up with joy first, always. He never showed, how much pain he was in or how sick he was. For the last, 3 years, he showed up with joy and with gratitude and continued to do that. And so that is how I will remember Howard.
Let's have one or two more stories, and remember we're going to continue story sharing during the reception in Baker Hall. One or two more stories.
I'll try to make this quick. My name is Paul Dadisman, and I'm from the LBTQ Center, and that's how I met Howard. Now, I'm kind of quiet and reserved, and I was taking yoga there, and Howard was getting on my nerves. He's trying to do yoga, and he was so tenacious about it. And he kept on going at it, but he would stumble, and he would, and I just thought, I can't do this, So the following week, I moved over to the other side of the room, okay? So I'm thinking, we're doing our tree stance and everything, and my eye picks up everything, and he's going at it, he's doing his hardest he could do, and I'm thinking, I can't deal with this. I gotta have structure. So I turned my back and started doing my yoga, my tree stance. And I'm standing there and I'm thinking, in my head, Howard's over there struggling. I know he is. And I'm like, this is not right to turn my back. So I turned back around, and the one thing he taught me is how to humble myself. Howard was loud and obnoxious to me at first, and I tried so hard to relate to him, but I kept myself at a distance. But one day, he came up to me and he said, can you give me a ride home? I go, sure. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, this is gonna be a trip. So I ended up taking him home, and he lived up on Robin Avenue. I took him home, and we chatted a little bit, and I'm thinking, gosh, he's not so bad when you're in a one-on-one, quiet in the car and everything. And we get home, he goes, can I ask a favor? And I go, sure. And he goes, can I have a hug? And I'm like, oh gosh. I said, sure. So I gave him a hug, and he pulls out of his bag, his little magic bag, these coupons. And he goes, here's a coupon, this will really benefit you. I go, well, what's it for? He goes, it's for cat food, you got cats. And I go, oh gosh, Howard, thank you. Since then, I've gotten closer to him and experienced certain behaviors with him where he had to be toned down, Howard, in the meetings at the center and everything. But when he started declining and he ended up in the one facility, I went to see him. And I knew when I went in, that was it. I was not going to see him from that day forward. I know that feeling. I've experienced it before. So I thought this is my opportunity to let him know that he was loved. So I held his hand. That's a big thing for me. And I told him I love him. And he reciprocated and said, I love you too. He goes, I love my whole family at the LGBTQ Center. That's my family. And I said, Howard, look at all those pictures over there you have on the wall. Look at all those things you did and the memories you created and memories we have of you. And I says, I am so grateful that we got to spend that time together on that boat trip when you saw him up there, you know. But the one thing I learned out of him was to be humble. So when I said my goodbyes, I turned around and walked away to the door. And I stopped for a minute, and I turned around and looked back one more time. And he reached up. And thank God for his LGBTQ people. I walked away, and I'm thinking, I'm so glad I got to know him better. What I would have missed. We should all be grateful. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Leah Romanelli de Jesus. I am the priest at St. Luke's Episcopal Church in Cleveland. And we have a Wednesday community meal, and there are several of the St. Luke's community folks here today who love Howard very much. And Howard, as you know, was a vegan, or aspiring vegan, more vegetarian, and we always had a vegetarian meal available. But Howard let me know that that was not quite good enough, that it would be simple enough if we could start using meat substitutes and just take off the cheese. It's so simple. And so we did. And because Howard asked us to meet his need, and we did, we have other vegans now who come to that meal who can't find a vegan meal almost anywhere else in Cleveland, and he created a safe space for so many other people by insisting that people's needs are important and should be met. Now, I started at St. Luke's in 2022 as a deacon and then was ordained to the priesthood about 6 months later. And in that time, Howard took me under his wing, and he ended up coming to my ordination. And he gave me my very favorite ordination present, which I still keep with me at all times, which was an envelope on which he had written his name in his kind of block lettering, and pieces of paper with his favorite quotes on them. And so of all of my ordination gifts, that's one of my favorite, and the quotes are from religions from all over the world and all different traditions. Howard also was very invested in the community programming that St. Luke's is trying to develop, where we have affordable housing for folks. And he told me that it was God's mission for us and that I was supposed to lead it. And every week he would check up on me to see if I had made any progress yet. And he'd say, now remember, I'm going to live until 87, so that's the time you have. I won't live long enough to live in it, but I need to see you break ground. And he didn't quite make it to 87, and we haven't quite broken ground, but I promise you that when we do, Howard will be remembered.
Hello, everybody.
I'm Mary Jo Maish from West Shore. I had the privilege of seeing Howard, I think, as one of his last visitors, because shortly thereafter he became comatose. And I walk in, and there is gingerbread from Jillian that he offers and gives me, and so on. One thing I want to share is that I took a class here called Building Your Own Theology. And there's a piece of that where you pair up with someone and there are questions and you share with someone. The person I got paired up with, you know, was Howard Moore. And I looked at Tricia and I said, oh, okay. And I boldly went off. Howard built his theology through all these stories. What he said to me, I couldn't tell you any part of it. It was hard to follow some of his thinking sometimes, especially when it was guided by somebody else's process. But I knew him, I loved him. He met his death the same way we've all imagined here. He told me that Jerry and Mark and David would all be there to welcome him, and he was looking forward to it. So, I loved him, and in fact, he did teach me a few things, one or two, today.
And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll make it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full, I've traveled each and every highway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way.
Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do. I saw it through without exemption. I planned each charted course, each careful step along the byway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way.
Yes, there were times,
Yes, there were times,
I'm sure you knew, when I bit off more than I could chew. And through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. I faced it all, and I stood tall and did it my way. I've loved, I've laughed and cried, I've had my fill, my share of losing.
and now as tears subside, I find it all so amusing. And to think I did all that
What is a man? What has he got? If not himself, then he is not. To say the things he truly feels, and not the words of one who kneels. The record shows I took the blows and did it my way. Yes, it was my way.
Today we do know the pain of too much tenderness. Today we feel the joy and the sorrow all mixed up together. This is the fullness of time we find ourselves in right now. Thank you all for your remembrances, the remembrances shared about Howard. I am so grateful to have come to know him better through your stories and your laughter and your tears. And I have a few stories of my own I want to share. Initially, I knew Howard as the person who would usually arrive just a few moments before Sunday services began. He would walk right down that central aisle, just as we heard Kathy suggest a moment ago, right down that central aisle, carrying his bags right to the front pew where Soren Hansen is sitting. Soren, raise your hand. Right there. Wearing his hat with the buttons. Sitting right there. Now, I'm sitting right in front of him. In that chair, you can't see it because it's hidden by the pew box, but I'd be sitting right there because I'm about to step up to start leading the worship service. I am about to step up and start things. Now, Howard was completely, enthusiastically engaged. Joie de vivre, we've heard that. Overflowing with ideas. And sometimes he would want to share all of them with me in the 60 seconds before the service was about to begin. That's okay, he just tried to talk faster. Howard didn't have much in the way of material goods. What he did have was friends. We have learned that in spades today, all across Cleveland. He had such a big heart, one that we know has extended outwards in an embrace of all living beings. When I sat with him in the hospital a few days before he passed, he shared with me that he'd been an animal rights supporter since he was 16 years old. Animals are friends, not food, he said. And there was depth to him. His heroes included Albert Schweitzer, Gandhi, the Dalai Lama, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Add to this list Nikola Tesla, who was, he said, so far advanced, wanted to give everyone free energy, had a heart of gold. Howard was also, how shall I put this, a bit eccentric. But that language comes from him. I'm just sharing what he told me as I was by his bedside, which was, I'm eccentric, if you haven't already noticed. And then he laughed, that high-pitched, cackling Howard laugh. Do you know what I'm talking about? If you've ever heard it, you'll never forget it. We heard a little bit of it in that video that Kathy showed us a little bit ago. West Shore, he told me, is my family. It's lovely to hear that the LGBTQ Center was family too. West Shore is my family. He said, I don't have biological family left, but West Shore's family, it's the best. I want to feed the people who fed me. In my next life, he said, I want to be an apple tree at the church. The people who fed me, I want to feed them and the next generation. He was in such dire pain near his end. With my own eyes, I saw the doctor unwrapping his leg bandages, and it was hard to watch. Howard gritting his teeth, sharp intake of breath. Then he turned to me and said, I'm accepting my death. I have no fear. I don't really want it, but I don't have control over that. When the doctor was done and the pain had calmed down a bit, irrepressible Howard returned. And with a twinkle in his eye, he proceeded to crack a joke about his legs. Should have been a Chippendales dancer, too late now. Howard truly did it his way, didn't he, Dave? Yeah. He was a star among us. Gather the stars, says poet Carl Sandburg. Gather the songs and keep them. Gather for keeping, years and years. And as we come together today to create a shared space to do together what is so difficult to do alone and separately, now we are grieving. Now we are saying goodbye. Gather the stars and then loosen hands. Let go and say goodbye. Let the stars and the songs go. Let the faces and the years go. Loosen hands and say goodbye. But it is not the sort of goodbye in which Howard disappears utterly from mind and heart. Not at all. Our celebration of life is above all an acknowledgement of the sacred mystery of how any life ultimately defeats nothingness. Unitarian Universalists are free to tell different stories about this. Some Unitarian Universalists will speak of reincarnation. Others will speak of there being no afterlife at all. Still others will say a different thing yet. But the one story we can all share in the telling of is how the actions of people who have long since died still reverberate in the same way that light from a star that has long since collapsed continues to stream through space and shine and warm. To paraphrase Reverend Peter Rabel, foundations have been laid which we did not build. Fires have been lit which we did not light. Trees have been planted which we did not plant. Any person who has lost a loved one knows that this is true, and that death does not end a relationship so much as inaugurate a new beginning for it, a new way of growing through it, a new way of appreciating it. Howard is an apple tree among us, planted forever in our hearts. Death is not an end, but a doorway. And it is a certain kind of doorway to the living as well. To each of you here, side by side with the laughter and tears which arise as you remember Howard and think on his life and his death, side by side is the equal task of you yourself going back out into this world and leaning into the one precious wild life that you have been given, and you've still got it by the grace of God. It is still present tense. It is still yours. What kind of tree are you? What kind of tree are you? How are you planting yourself to give back in gratitude for all the gifts that you have been given? May you live your life as well as Howard has. He earned his view of life at the top of the hill. He earned it. Passion, compassion, courage, joy, kindness, integrity, joie de vivre, an obsessive love of duct tape. Whatever. May you live and live and live until that final moment when death comes for you. Amen. Let us enter into a time of silent meditation, prefaced by these profound words from Dorothy Monroe. Death is not too high a price to pay for having lived. Mountains never die, nor do the seas or rocks or endless sky. Through countless centuries of time, they stay eternal, deathless, yet they never live. If choice were there, I would not hesitate to choose mortality. Whatever fate demanded in return for life, I'd give. For never to have seen the fertile plains, nor heard the winds, nor felt the warm sun on sands beneath the salty sea, nor touched the hands of those I love. Without these, all the gains of timelessness would not be worth one day of living and loving, come what may. So may it be. Amen. All the music you've heard today was requested by Howard. He wanted us to sing Imagine. I've always struggled with that song because it says there should be no religion to, and I actually am. The Unitarian Universalism is a religion. It's fine. But we're going to sing Imagine. We're going to sing this song coming up here, Rocky Mountain High by John Denver. He wanted Brian and Margaret to sing My Way. He specifically asked for them to do that on his deathbed. So we're honoring him today with the music. So let's sing the hell out of this song. Come on, let's do it. Rocky Mountain High by John Denver.
He was born in the summer of his 27th year, coming home to a place he'd never been before. He left yesterday behind him. You might say he was born again. You might say he found a key for every door. When he first came to the mountains, his light was far away on the road and hanging by a song. But the string's already broken and he doesn't really care. He keeps changing fast and it don't last for very long. But Colorado Mountain High, I've seen it raining fire in the sky. The shadow from the starlight is softer than a lullaby. Rocky Mountain High, Rocky Mountain High. He climbed Cathedral Mountains, he saw silver clouds below. He saw everything as far as you can see. And they say that he got crazy once and he tried to touch the sun. And he lost a friend, has kept his memory. Now he walks walks in quiet solitude, the forest and the streams, seeking grace in every step he takes. His sight is turned inside himself to try and understand the serenity of a clear blue mountain lake and the Colorado Rocky Mountain high. I've seen it rain and fire in the sky. Talk to God and listen to the cattle cry. Rocky Mountain high. Rocky Mountain high. Now his life is full of wonder, but his heart still knows the fear of a simple thing he cannot comprehend. Why they try to hear the mountains down to bring in a couple more people, more scars upon the land. And the Colorado Mountain high, I've seen it rain and fire in the sky. I know he'd be a proper man if he never saw an eagle fly. Rocky Mountain high, it's a Colorado Rocky Mountain high. I've seen it rain and fire in the sky. Friends around the campfire and everybody's high. Rocky Mountain high. Rocky Mountain high. Rocky Mountain high.
Good job. So in this time of remembrance and celebration, intermingled with all the laughter and stories, again, let me say, grief is a central visitor, and it moves in uneven and unexpected ways. You may be finding that this service is bringing up other losses in your life. The death of another family member or friend or even a pet, maybe all of the losses together. I hear that so often. Someone will say to me in the receiving line, I came to honor the person who just died, and the grief I felt for that loss has connected me to some other grief or all of my other griefs. It can really be astonishing, but it is, again, all part for the course. And so, in the upcoming days and weeks and months as we grieve Howard's death, let's strengthen each other. Let's encourage each other. And know this, while we may never get to a point where we stop feeling sadness for our losses, what is for sure is that time and wisdom make us grow larger than any grief. And it's in this largeness of soul where we gain perspective and compassion and increasing appreciation for the gifts of life. And this latter piece especially, more and more we realize that the people we love, the joys we experience are genuine gifts. And we become less likely to take them for granted and more likely to savor them when we have them. You will never meet another Howard Moore as long as you live. Remember that. That is another lesson. We are learning lots of lessons today. Be kind to yourself in this time and to others. Now our chalice will be extinguished. The chalice is now extinguished, but its light, which represents Howard's wonderful joie de vivre life, is now ours to take forth from this place and to share it with those we know and those we love and those we maybe don't know yet, but we're going to meet them. Let's now conclude this celebration of life. Please rise in body and in spirit. Humbly we stand in the face of death. Confidently we stand with life because we share one fate and a great compassion. Our strength is the strength of humanity, all of it, throughout all time. Let us now go in acceptance and in thanksgiving, grateful for the life of Howard Moore, comforted by one another's presence, and sustained by the peace of all that is sacred. So may it be. Amen.